The adventurers had started getting into a stir following the death of one of their own. Among everyone in the frenzy, there was one, a demi-human by the name of Turk, who was adamant that it was Ryu, that the gale wind had been the one responsible for the death, and that she needed to be hunted down. Of course, Ryu had always been considered of a taboo amongst the adventurers of Orario. While there was a bounty on her head, it was more so a matter of cowardice that no one ever decided to claim it. Plus, Ryu always kept a low profile, so no one ever really knew where she was, even when she worked at the Hostess of Fertility. Even in the midst of working in a tavern, she always made sure to keep herself innocuous. Plus, when you're dealing with a bunch of drunken adventurers who couldn't tell their left foot from their right, blending in was all the more easier. And plus it helped to stay in the background, cooking and not serving very much. No, Ryu had always managed to keep a low profile, but now this was something that couldn't be ignored. Of course, upon hearing the news, Bell immediately wanted to come to her defense. However, he would be stopped by Aisha of all people, warning him that by trying to defend her as hard as he was, he'd only be looking like a co-conspirator. While everyone was trying to figure out what to do, another member of Bell's party, Cassandra, was dealing with a dilemma. She had awoken to a premonition, a dream. You could say that they plagued her more than anything else, because in her premonition she saw the deaths of all of her friends, all of her comrades. And in the midst of it all, there stood a being in darkness. A being, a man made of metal, whose eyes glowed with a fiery red as if you were peering into hell itself. For Cassandra, she wasn't sure if this premonition were true, if it would come to pass, but what was even more worrying was that she knew that no one would listen to her. No one would believe her. She thought that the best course of action was to leave, to not get involved, to go up to the surface, to avoid whatever dangers were going to bring them down below. But of course, the group wasn't going to do that. Bell did show concern for Cassandra, and she was grateful for this. He understood that the power she was burdened with was oftentimes very taxing on the mind. She wasn't doing this to be malicious. She was only saying what she said because she cared, and Bell understood that. At the same time, though, another friend of his was in need, and he couldn't abandon them. But he would take what she said into consideration, hopefully taking as many precautions as necessary. The one leading the hunt team would be an adventurer named Bors. Along with the other members that followed him along, they were all going to descend lower into the dungeon, moving from the safe zone going deeper. It was believed that Ryu would be somewhere within the 27th or 28th floor. So, once they reached the 25th floor, the groups would decide to split into two camps, the one that would move forward and the one that would stay back and guard the entrance. Bell decided to leave every one of his team to guard at the entrance, taking Cassandra's premonition into consideration. If something truly bad were to happen, and this wasn't to downplay any of the strengths of his teammates, but he believed that the best course of action was that if the worst case scenario were to happen, then it would be wise if only he were to face it. And no one disagreed with that. Not that they didn't or wouldn't see it as disrespect. No, on the contrary, they agreed. The floors down below only became more and more dangerous. You didn't survive in this world by trying to have buff bravado, by pretending that you were some badass who could take on the whole world alone. No, very few had that type of power, and even the ones that did exercised the most caution. It was only when you were prepared, only when you truly had a sound state of mind that you survived, hopefully. The others knew that Bell was clearly the strongest out of all of them. If anyone could take care of himself and get to Ryu before the others, it would be him. For now, they could just guard the entrance. If she came back, they were confident that together they could all bring her down. It wouldn't be easy since she was a level 4, but still, it'd be better than nothing. With that, Bell would descend down with Boris and his party. Turk, the one who had accused Ryu, would be staying back along with a group of his associates to guard the entranceway. Although guarding the entranceway wasn't something he was too keen on doing. He was getting antsy, and Lily and Wolf could see it. He was acting as if he were in expectation of something, like something was about to go down. He kept talking about how they should go and search for her on the floor, despite some deciding to stick to what Boris suggested and to guard the entranceway. Of course, this made a divide amongst already the divided groups, those who wanted to stay and guard the entrance, and those who wanted to go exploring looking for the traitor. Of course, for Lily and Wolf, they discussed what they should do with everyone. For Aisha, she was quickly able to see that Turk was hiding something. The way he was acting, he was up to no good, and what was worse, they couldn't just leave him to his own devices. So they decided they'd follow along, under the guise that they'd be helping in the search. But, just as they suspected, Turk looked annoyed at this. Like he only wanted his group to go on the search. He didn't want anyone else tagging along. And even as they continued, at multiple points he tried to get them to turn back. But they only persisted, saying that it was better to go in numbers. After all, if they were dealing with the treacherous gale wind, then they would need all the help that they could get, right? Turk had no way of arguing this, neither did the few associates who were willing to tag along with him. But still, you could tell that there was something on their minds. They were up to something. They didn't want anyone to be involved for when it happened. It was just a matter of time of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Meanwhile, Bell continued down to the lower floors, arriving to the waterfall level where he had been at not too long ago. And there he would meet with Marie, the mermaid. Of course, Marie was happy to see Belle once again, but she was worried once more. Once again, Belle had come down to the dungeons looking for someone who was very dangerous, and she had half a mind not to tell him, but Belle was persistent, and eventually she would cave in, explaining where he needed to go and where he needed to look. While he was in his journey, Belle would find her. There was a man strung up by webs, as Ryu held a wooden blade to his throat. Belle would try to stop her. As she turned to see him, he could see the look of anger in her eyes, the rage that was welling inside of her. Belle was all too aware of this. You see, Belle knew about her backstory, about how she was once a part of a familia that was betrayed, and how all the members save for her were killed. Belle didn't know much else about Ryu, but he knew enough to know that whatever she was trying to do, this road of vengeance she was walking, it wouldn't give her what she wanted. She was only making enemies of the people around her. But now, more importantly, she was on the verge of doing something she'd regret. Ryu, however, looked at him coldly, telling him that he should leave. He shouldn't get involved in what she was doing. The people she was after, they were nothing more but monster food. Ryu would disappear once again, leaving Belle with the wounded adventurer, a dwarf. As he took him along, he would meet with Boris and his group once again, who found other injured adventurers. Among them, a demi-human by the name of Jura, who was missing an arm. Belle noticed something about Jura, but he kept it to himself. In the meantime, as if waiting in anticipation, they saw something crawling up the dark ceiling of the cave. One by one, adventurers got strung up by webs, being locked and held into place, others being attacked by Ryu all at once. Belle watched as the elf woman worked with quickness and efficiency, making sure to web up all the fighters that she had no intentions on killing. Belle was thankfully fast enough to move from her web attack. It left Jura the chance to escape, as Belle chased after him and Ryu followed suit. Before long, Belle would eventually catch up to Jura, who begged and pleaded for him to help. Ryu, she was out of her mind. She was going to kill him for no reason. But when Ryu caught up, she knew very well what she had come for. Jura begging with Belle to defend him, to protect him. Belle tried to figure it all out. Ryu, however, held up her blade. She made it very clear that she would get to Jura by any means necessary, even if it meant cutting him down. Belle stood firm as he held on to Mjolnir. She didn't want to do this, and neither did he, but they were reaching an impasse now. If they couldn't figure out a compromise, or at least try to keep things civil, they may have no choice. I can't get to him, Belle, if you stand in my way. I can't let you do something so reckless, Ryu. Just take a moment to think things. I've thought things through enough. I've made more than enough sacrifices. I haven't come this far just to quit now. Belle saw on her left shoulder what appeared to be like a tattoo in the shape of a spider. That marking on your arm. Ryu, what have you done? I accepted my fate and everything that comes along with it. I can't forgive, Belle. I can't turn back. I can't pretend like it didn't happen. I'm sorry, I'm just not built that way. He's going to die. The only choice you have in the matter is whether you're going to die with him or not. But for what? What has he done? He's one of them. I let him go once before, but that was a mistake. I should have killed him when I had the chance. But before you do, you're not going to stop me. I just need to know, did you kill the adventurer on the outskirts? What? I don't have time for... Please, I need to know. Did you do it? No, Belle, I didn't. All right then. What? Jura looked confused himself. You say you didn't do it. I believe you. Belle started to move to the side. This gesture had even Ryu stunned. That was really all he wanted to know? To know that she hadn't killed the adventurer? But why? If you didn't kill that adventurer, then that means you haven't killed anyone. At least not yet. You're not guilty of any crime. I can't say if I fully agree with you for going after Jura, but even still, Belle looked to Jura in that moment. That injury of yours, you tried to play it off as if it only happened recently when you rejoined with our group with Boars. But you've had that injury for a while now, so that's clearly not the case. And then there's Turk. I don't like the way he's been acting either. What's really going on here, Jura? Come on, Belle, it's... Oh, I guess there's no point in keeping up a front, huh? Belle would immediately back away, standing alongside Ryu, the two thankful that it didn't have to come to a battle between friends. Well. I had hoped that you two would destroy each other. The plan was foolproof. But still, like my lady says, you have to be prepared for the unexpected. No matter. Even when plan A goes down the drain, there's always plan B, even plan C. But for me, I'm more in favor of plan D. And what do you mean by that? Belle said. Oh, you'll find out soon enough, Rabbit's Foot. I assure you of that. At the same time, Belle's party had also been betrayed by Turk and his group. As Turk, at the same time as Jura, would both begin to summon giant snakes known as lambtons. Large, earthen-like snakes that burrowed underground. That's how they moved from level to level. The giant monstrous snakes would attack on both ends, with Belle and his team battling against their giant snake, while Ryu and Belle would battle against the one alike, that were both being controlled by both Turk and Jura, who were using specially created magical artifacts. They were monster tamers, and they had specially made whips that could tame any monster of great power. As they fought against the giant snakes, Ryu and Belle were able to work in sync. Ryu would shoot webs from her wrists. They were silver in color, and glistened and glowed even in the darkness of the cave from the reflective surface of the waters and the stalactites up above. Ryu used her webbing to try to hold the snake in place, slowing down its momentum long enough, as Belle took Mjolnir and transformed it into the Odin sword, slashing and cutting at various points, before backing away and transforming it once again into Gungnir, the Spear of Heaven. Channeling it with lightning, he threw the spear directly into that of the snake, but it was a powerful beast, able to shrug it off just enough to keep going. While just a few levels above, Welf was coordinating his attacks with the other members of his party as they continued to battle against Turk, who was controlling a lambton of his own. As the fighting continued to rage on, Belle would finally deliver the decisive blow, both he and Ryu alike, as they were able to drill their weapons into the head of the snake, killing it completely. Of course, for Jura, while he had hoped that this wouldn't be the case, in the end, you had to always be prepared for the unexpected. And well, the lambton had brought him just enough time. As Ryu and Belle approached, they were ready to end this madness once and for all. You've got nowhere to run, Jura. It's over. But why? Why would you try to do all of this? Were you just after Lady Ryu or something else? You wouldn't understand. That bitch. She hunted us down like animals. You betrayed me. You killed them all. You drove my god into despair, causing him to leave this world. And why? Why did you do it? If it makes you feel any better, Toots, it wasn't personal. It was just business. My familia was hired to do it. Paid good money, too. We were supposed to take all of you out. But you managed to scamper off and get away. You know, it's funny. I remember when we killed you all. The way that you all flailed. That look of shock. And I remember how you ran. You ran away scared with your tail tucked between your legs. Because that's all you were good for. But ever since then, you've just been trying to pick us off one by one. Hit and run tactics. Why? Because you weren't strong enough to come at us yourself? No, you hid like a coward in the shadows, and we got tired of it. So we reached out to the person that hired us, and thankfully, she was on the same page. And you were stupid enough to take the blessing of the spider god. It was even better. You and Belle, you were supposed to have an epic battle down here. And then, once you were both tuckered out, I'd summon the Lambton to kill you all. But my master, she had an even better idea. You see, there are a lot of things about the dungeon. A lot of things you don't know. Like certain monsters that are trapped and need to be set free. The only problem is, I never had the power to do it. Until now. No. Jura, Ryu would say. You don't mean the harbinger of despair, the being that brings nothing but chaos. It's here. I know where it is, and I know how to set it free. It doesn't matter if this level becomes my tomb, because I get to take all of you with me. The elf bitch Gale Wind, and the little rookie, the Gale Thunder, the boy who possessed the power of Thor. Thor, they say, and yet you're about to die. You, how could you? Ryu grabbed her blade, ready to kill him. Belle had to hold her back. Let me go! Let me go! I have to kill him! Stop! Miss Ryu! It's not worth it! It's... The cave began to shake and rumble. And Ryu was all too familiar with that feeling. She knew what was about to come. Tears began to well in her eyes as she looked at Belle, telling him to run. As multiple cave rocks began to fall all around Jura, as he was slowly starting to be crushed, they could hear the cackling of his laughter in the distance. It doesn't matter where you try to run. You're not gonna get that far. It's over. It's all over. You're gonna die. You hear me? You're gonna die. For Wealth and the others a few levels above, they could feel the shaking of what was to come also. Cassandra, a look of worry forming in her eyes. Was this it? Was this the premonition? The ill fate that was set to befall them? As Belle and Ryu continued to run, Belle looked to her, asking what was happening. Ryu solemnly looked to him. They've summoned the destroyer. The what? It's going to come. And when it does, there won't be hope for any of us. In the meantime, at the home of the Hestia Familia, Hestia and Micah were both relaxing, having a cup of tea. It got lonely without their familia with them, since they were all still in the dungeon, but at the same time, it was nice to catch up with old friends. All the same, though, things got a little hectic when Hestia noticed a spider on her shoulder. The guys would shriek and run away as they all looked up to the ceiling to see that Kawaku was with them, Kawaku jumping down and taking a bow. Micah, Hestia, how are you? Spiders! Spiders! Wait, hold on. Why the hell is she holding a piano? Wait, no, ow, no, ow, Hestia, no, ow, stop, it's me, ow! Spiders! 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 Stay away! Stay away! Stay away! Micah was absolutely stunned. The goddess Hestia was not known for having raw strength of that nature, so the fact that she was able to pick up a giant-ass piano and start slamming it on top of God Kawaku, Anasi, god of the spiders, well, that took a lot of effort. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. Once Kawaku got his bearings about him, he shook off being slammed by with a piano as Hestia cowered in the corner. Why? Why spiders? Why does it have to be spiders? I don't want spiders. 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 Guys, Hestia, please calm down. It's all right. They're under the protection of Lord Kawaku. He would never use them to harm you. But still, they're icky and gross. If you wanted to come here, Kawaku, why didn't you just use the front door, damn it? Oh. Sweet God, my ass. You're as violent as ever. Don't change the subject. What are you doing here? I simply came to see if you had heard the news. News? Just then, the doorbell would ring, and the news in question would arrive. It was about Ryu. She was accused of murder, and Bell and his party were being joined by an execution squad. They're going down to the 28th level. What the hell? When did all this happen? Just then, the doorbell would ring again. Then the door exploded. They heard stammering footsteps, everyone looking on in terror as the door to the room would burst through. And it was Hercules. Oh, what the hell? We just fixed that door, Hestia would say. First spiders, now this big oaf, and enough of the yammering. Don't you feel that power? Power? It's coming from the dungeon. Don't you feel it? It took the gods a moment, but now that he mentioned it, they could feel a terrifying aura. If they were all the way down on the 28th floor, then how were they? The 28th floor? Hercules said. No. Not again. Hercules, what's going on? Hestia would ask. You remember my transgression when I went into the dungeon? Yes. You fought all the way to the 12th floor before Thor stopped you, right? That's not the full story. No one knew for sure what Hercules meant by this until he explained. It's true. In my rage and anger, I rushed into the labyrinth, even though gods are not allowed to go. I killed every would-be monster, from the weakest to the strongest, level by level. I slaughtered them all. When I got to the 12th, by the time Thor had reached me, we encountered a being of mass terror. The Destroyer, Micah would say. You encountered the Destroyer? We battled it all the way down to the 28th level. There, we managed to seal it away. We believe that in time, with the seal that was placed on it, no adventurer would be strong enough to break through it. At least they shouldn't be. We had hoped that by the time the seal was undone, the adventurers of this world would be strong enough to finally kill it. You guys weren't able to? The Destroyer is no ordinary monster, Lady Hestia. It's very powerful. It took our combined efforts just to hold it at bay. Maybe we could have killed it if we had had more time, but the longer we stayed in the labyrinth, the worser the situation got. That's why we lied. I took my penance, my 12 labors, one for every dungeon I went in. Thor vouched on my behalf. He didn't tell them about everything else that happened, because it only would have made it worse for the both of us. So we just went under the pretense that he was trying to pull me out. If you're saying all of that, then does that mean... Yes. Somehow, someone has unleashed the Destroyer yet again. But Belle, they're all down there. We have to do something. We have to hurry. And Hercules, can't you go down there and stop them? I mean, I know that if it's wrong, but if you and... I would if I could, but I can't. You know as well as I do. The gods placed a barrier to keep me out specifically. It works overtime. I can't get in there. But wait a second. Lady Hestia was able to get inside of the dungeon. How could it not work for you? That's the thing. The barrier is so powerful. It works overtime to keep me out at any cost. Because of that, it's weak enough that other gods, like Lady Hestia and yourself, no offense, are able to slip through the barrier with ease, because all of its attention is focused on making sure that I can't get in there. And the more I try to, the more it will fight and resist. There's no other way for me to get to it. What are we going to do? If the Destroyer is truly unleashed, can they... I'm sorry, Hercules said. I know what you're going to ask me. And I guess there's no point in hiding the truth. If the Destroyer is released, at their current level, specifically Belle's, he doesn't stand a chance. If they don't find a way to escape, if they can't find a way to get out, Hercules looked to all of them solemnly, and they could tell from the expression on his face just how serious he was. If they can't find a way out, they're all going to die. This concludes Danmachi, The Last King. What if Belle Cranel was Thor? Season 4, Part 4. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we'll be continuing with Danmachi, The Last King. What if Belle Cranel was Thor? Season 4, Part 5. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.